The warden settled behind his desk in the tall tower, unsure of what he should do now. Everyone was asleep, and a sleeping compound was a peaceful compound. Peace was one thing the warden could not abide. The warden was a creature of the pits, a creature of anarchy and strife, and peace felt like a sandpaper loofah. There was plenty of ill will where I came from, the warden lamented. He'd never regretted coming to the surface. It had been one of the best ideas he'd ever had. He had a little more power down below than his sister, being older by more than a few centuries. Even before being cast out of hell, his sister had always been a bit of a wet blanket. Instead of tormenting the souls by injecting doubt or putting in terrible memories, she always took the memories away and left them more or less unfeeling. Father hadn't really liked that. His children generally fell in line, and seeing that his daughter was a bit of a dreamer and somewhat of a failure didn't sit well with him. Dreamers didn't really have a place in the burning abyss, and they had forced her out into what they had all been sure was a fate worse than death. Their father had left the hole so that they could look up and see what had become of her and what sort of actions might befall them if they followed in her stead. But the warden had always looked at it and wondered what was up there. He wondered long enough that finally he decided to go find out. He had popped his head up and found a derelict prison that was holding POWs during one of the wars where people tormented each other. It had been pretty easy to move in and establish himself as the warden of the camp, which had been named after the general that had found it. General Raelyn Stragview had been a pompous asshole, and the warden hadn't really minded disposing of him. Well, it hadn't really been disposal. He'd simply taken the general off the field and stepped into his role. He'd been nice enough to name the prison after him, so he felt like he had honored the man's memory pretty well. After that, he had simply continued to be the warden, and no one had spoken out against him. Well, a few of them had, but he'd put a stop to that pretty quickly, hadn't he? The warden liked the prison. He liked it a lot. It was like an ant farm, and he was like the kid who stands behind the glass and watches the ants. Sometimes he might take one of the ants out so it could see how large and imposing he is. Sometimes he was simply content to watch the ants kill each other and eat the scraps of food that he put inside. There were days when he wanted to throw the ant farm away and start another one, but he didn't. A prison was not like an ant farm in that respect. If you threw your prison away, it was a lot harder to get a new one. Besides, people would notice if his prison suddenly just stopped existing, and there would be all sorts of questions. Questions from the federal government, who sent him money. Questions from the state legislator, who also sent him money. And questions from the court system, who sent him inmates, which were the means by which he gained money. The money was incidental. He didn't yearn for it in the same way that his younger brother did. The money was a means to an end. With money, he could build more areas to house more inmates. With money, he could make more programs to give the inmates things to do. It was all very mundane, but sometimes that sort of mundanity breeds the best kind of suffering. So, why was he so bored? He had everything he ever wanted. The prison was now running better than it had ever run. It was employing officers who did not complain and did not want for anything. The inmates were miserable, which was providing him with a different sort of food source. It should have been great, but it just wasn't. The longer it went on, the more the warden was beginning to suspect that he had disrupted the natural order. No matter what you do, no matter who you torture, no matter what suffering you elicit, remember that the natural order must be maintained. That had been his father's favorite catechism, inasmuch as the old demon had had a catechism. It was something his younger brother had really taken to heart, but it was something that the warden had never really stopped to think about before. The natural order of the prison was suffering. Any fool knew that. They were there to be punished, and so they were. No, what he had broken was the natural order between the guards and the inmates. Most of the suffering was on the end of the incarcerated individuals, but so much of the suffering that he took in was also that of the employees. The long hours, the anxiety, the desire to escape, it was all something shared between the inmates and the guards. That's what's missing, he thought to himself as he leaned back in his chair and spun slowly towards the window. That singular woven strand of hopeless suffering. It isn't there anymore. I'm missing the taste and the flavors that I usually take for granted. And it's rather boring to have a group of individuals that just do what you tell them to do. He checked the time, 10:05 p.m., and decided to ring Miss Evergreen and see if perhaps she could cancel this little experiment. Maybe not all at once. Maybe they could keep them in the kitchens and in the laundry, but he believed it would be better to have real guards in the dorms again. The ghoul squad had worked out very well, almost too well, but it wasn't exactly what he wanted. The phone rang a few times before he hung up and decided that Miss Evergreen had likely gone home. Didn't matter. He could call her in the morning when she came in. Maybe he should call the others who had attempted to initiate peace talks. He thought about calling Strauss and decided that he had missed the man. Strauss had always given him good advice, and it was hard these days to find men you could trust in a business like this. You just never knew who was going to take advantage of you and who was going to do good work for a good day's wage. It was probably a little late to call Strauss, and it was definitely too late to call the others. He thought maybe Strauss would have the numbers of those who wanted to make a deal, and had decided that tomorrow would be the perfect time to get all of this done. It will be nice to have actual employees again, he reflected, wondering if all of them would come back. He had been looking at some of the new faces around the botanical garden and wondered if the lady would let him hire a few of them in order to supplement his lack of guards. She had so many extras, her little entourage of brandy-lows. He was certain she wouldn't miss a few of them. Maybe she might even appreciate the increase in money they brought through paychecks. He was considering all of this when the big orange cat jumped up onto his desk and meowed loudly. "There you are. What news have you brought for me?" He leaned his face very close to the cat's, almost nose to nose, and listened as the cat told him everything he needed to know. "She is she? Well, perhaps I'll go see who it is she intends to meet." He moved out onto the balcony, leaving the cat to snuffle happily on his desk. And instead of unfurling his wings, the warden became as insubstantial as smoke and drifted down into the yard. He came through the fence over the rec yard, where the inmates had so unsuccessfully rioted, and then over the ground towards the tree line. He could see the graveyard coming up, the little cemetery where several past officers and staff were buried, and he lingered there like a gargoyle behind one of the tombstones. He could see her slipping out of the tunnel that came out to the under-prison, and as she made her way towards the woods, he crept quietly behind. What business would his dear Miss Evergreen having the very dangerous woods that surrounded Stragview. As a shape came striding towards the edge of the woodlands, the warden saw one of the huge, formidable hellhounds bend its head so that she could give it a scratch. There was something tied around his neck, and she unwound a piece of paper, which she stuffed into her pocket. "Tell him it'll be done. The warden doesn't suspect a thing. All goes as planned." The hellhound made a strange gasping noise, and then headed back into the woods on whatever errand she had sent him on. When she turned around to go back through the entryway within the maze, the warden was waiting for her with the most predatory grin. "I knew I should have been suspicious. You've been in league with Reese all along, haven't you? The question is, why would you aid my prison while working against me?" If he had expected Miss Evergreen to look surprised or fearful, he was disappointed. Quite the contrary. She looked resplendent in her simple dress. She held about her the aura of a returned conqueror, and it wasn't until that moment that the warden saw what he should have seen all along. He had seen it, hadn't he? He had mistaken her the first time that he had seen her, but it had been nothing. Looking at her now, he saw the face of the woman he loved briefly. She was spreading her arms as she meant to summon help, and as if in answer, he saw spirits rise from the woods behind her. "Helping you? Who said anything about helping you or your damned old prison? I came to see this place destroyed. I came to see everything you have built torn to sunders. I want to take your life, or the only thing in this life that you value. As you took my life, I will now take yours." Some of the warden's confidence slipped away as the ghosts of former guards and inmates began to approach him. "Jesse, I should have known. You would have done well to have slipped off somewhere so that I couldn't kill you a second time. In your current state, all you can hope for is a very quick and uneventful death." He lunged at her, but as the ghosts moved to block her, he found out that they were far more substantial than he had believed. They blocked his way, thrusting him back as they protected their mistress. "You'll find that I'm quite a bit more formidable than your average human. You let me command the ghosts too well, and you gave me exactly what I needed to see my will done. I have to thank you, actually. Without the other totem, I could have never commanded them so easily. Now they do my bidding, and with a little help from another of your old enemies, I control the forest as well. You cannot hope to be rid of me so easily, Warden." The ghosts began to move closer, and the warden found himself backing away, not wanting to be swamped beneath them when they charged him. "What are your intentions? Do you mean to kill me? You really are a fool if you think you can. I'm no flesh and blood mortal as you are. You'll find that I'll take more than a handful of spirits and a few magical stones to be rid of me." "Kill you? Who said anything about killing you? Stragview needs a warden just as much as prisoners. Also, killing you is so absolute. I think I would rather keep you here and have you know that there's nothing you can do to escape. The prison will be your prison as well, a fitting punishment for what you did to me so many years ago. But don't fret. I would consider it a mercy compared to what I'm going to unleash once I get inside again." The warden wanted to ask her what she was talking about, but he believed he understood. "You can't release them. They're worse than even you are. They won't thank you for cutting them loose. They'll only smile and laugh and rip you to pieces." "We'll see," Jessie said, and the warden realized he had allowed her to maneuver him right through the door that led to the under-prison. She slammed it with a resounding crash, and the warden was trapped within the darkness of his own making.
Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything. We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.